This interview has some of the most powerful nuggets about life, entrepreneurship, and building a business out of any conversation I've ever had. And that's because today I sat down with Ryan Daniel Moran.
When you create your future, you're simply deciding what from your past you're bringing with you. The irony of that is that pain can drive us to do great things, but we don't feel like they are great. And I want to be clear, this company is in shambles. It should be called shit strength. I mean, it's that bad. We opened up the packet and it spilled everywhere. And there's just all this white powder all over the floor. And we're like, it's not what it looks like.
One of the OGs in the Amazon space that started way back in 2013. His video about 5 years ago on how to go from $0 to $1 million on Amazon changed my life, changed my perspective about business, and changed my perspective about selling on the Amazon platform. In this interview, we dive into that journey and much, much more. I think you're gonna dig it, and hopefully there's a couple nuggets in this one that change your perspective on life and business as well. Let's go. All right, so this is an interview, frankly, that has been years in the coming. Ryan Daniel Moran, who is an OG in the physical products e-commerce space. His video, which came out about 5-6 years ago, kind of prescribed an outline and a playbook to go from $0 to $1 million on Amazon. I was a schlacky, white-collar, button-up corporate dude, and something in that video inspired me and literally changed my life. Like, I think tens of thousands of other people that kind of discovered the platform of creating products. Ryan, I'm super pumped to have you on to talk about that journey as well as what's happened the last 6 years. But I'll just start off by tipping my hat to you and just saying thanks, like many others in the community, for changing my life, and thanks for all you do, dude. It's going to be a fun chat having you on.
Thank you so much for having me. That feedback means the world to me because we never see who's on the other side of clicks and views and watch time. So hearing stories like that just makes me feel very proud. I appreciate it very much.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Life's a trip and surreal, and kind of when you're talking into a blank camera, you don't really know what's on the other side. But there's definitely a human experience that you've tapped into and contributed to. So I have seen a lot of your content, like I'm sure a lot of folks have, followed your journey, followed what you've done with your brands, what you've done with your community. But there's not a lot out there about like the pre, physical products fame Ryan Moran. So I kind of want to understand that a little bit and like, where did you come from? What was the journey to getting to the point that you're at now?
Well, I went to school thinking I was going to become a pastor. And that was sort of my expectation for most of my life, that I was going to go down this road and I was going to make $35,000 a year and I was going to give my life to the church. I was doing that mostly out of obligation and trying to make God happy rather than really the journey I wanted to go down. I was born and bred an entrepreneur, meaning it was just in my bones. I was the kid who did lemonade stands and mini garage sales and flipped baseball cards and did that kind of stuff my entire life. And so the summer before I went to college to study Christian ministries, I started this website where I was just learning search engine optimization and email marketing and affiliate marketing, making $100,000 from my college dorm room. And so my entrepreneurial itch is being scratched here, right? And I'm spitting off cash and I'm learning this process and paid off my student loans, which were significant, and saved money and did that stuff, but really was building a skill set. I was generating cash flow from, but it was not a business. And I tried the information product thing, always felt like a scam artist. Tried going into different niches and markets, never felt like I had enough interest there. So I had this skill set, and then Google changes its algorithm, landscape changes, and all of a sudden I'm a college graduate who never got a job because I had this skill set and was making money, and now my income source is threatened, and now I'm freaking out. I ended up just sort of taking a break. I was like, I need to figure out what I'm doing. I need to figure out what I'm going to do with this skill set, if I'm going to keep this skill set, if I need to go get a job or what. So I took on email marketing clients for about 6 to 12 months, where I was just charging people to write emails, and I was doing some marketing consulting for them. I had 3 clients making about $10,000 a month as a consultant and a copywriter, and that was like enough for me to catch my breath and figure out what I was going to do next. And lo and behold, there was this new platform that was emerging called Amazon FBA. And Amazon FBA was interesting to me because It was search engine optimization, but it was a completely different arena than Google. And it also was what I would consider a real business. You sold real stuff. You sold tangible things. You were not selling hopes and dreams. You delivered the product and theoretically you were done. And so I got into this game 2013-ish and started, selling maybe $10,000, $20,000 a month in Amazon FBA. And I sat back and I was like, everybody's selling products here. Nobody's building real companies. Nobody's really building real brands. What would that look like? What would it look like to do email marketing campaigns and do real SEO for Amazon? And so this old skill set that I had built started to apply to the FBA game and the physical products game, which is when I started teaching in that transition. What allowed me to be successful quickly in that game was the skill set that I had built in email marketing and search engine optimization, some customer acquisition, basic internet marketing, understanding how product launches work, and cutting my teeth in that world, seeing that it applied then to real businesses. And that's what sort of got me into the game. And I did not become a pastor. In case you want the story spoiled.
I think we figured that one out, but that's awesome. So there's three threads there, and I want to get into the building a brand stuff and kind of the dynamics there, because I think that you were the first to do it. And frankly, there's still, in the Amazon channel space, at least, it's still a relatively nascent concept, which is kind of shocking. Yeah. But there's three threads that I want to dive into. The first of which I find the most intriguing, which is I believe that the old you must die to transition into the new you on things. And
wish that wasn't true, but it is, Adam.
The loops, the preconditioned loops that our parents create, that society creates, our own psyche, like our own psychological kind of frameworks create, it's hard to divorce yourself from that. And I spent a decade too long in corporate America. And I know it now, and I knew it while I was going through it. And you have this kind of deep consciousness where you realize that that's going on, but it's scary and hard to kill that old part of you and go into the unknown. And I think that anybody that I know that's kind of stepped into entrepreneurship has had to kind of take that leap. And you took it, I think, in a deeper leap than many, which is like divorcing yourself from your theological identity, so to speak, and all that stuff that happened from a kid. So how do you do that? And like, how do you face that kind of conscious recognition that you need to go a different path and step through that really scary experience, which is stepping into the unknown and letting the old you and those old kind of loops go away?
Well, I'm doing it right now. Yeah. And it's around the concept of being a parent and a leader of a family. And this is happening for me where I've sort of just recently been grieving the death of the boy, the boy me. We might call that the prince who like gets the spoils and does whatever the heck he wants, but doesn't take full responsibility for the kingdom, doesn't have to until the king dies. And then the prince must become the leader. I'm going through that transition right now where I'm looking at my life and saying, what in my life is staying here because I've been a boy, not a man?
Yep.
I posted this publicly, which was brought up a lot of gunk for me, but I'm like, I'm ridding myself of this person. And I posted like, people think I'm a good man. I'm not. I'm a good boy, but yep. I'm becoming a good man. I am learning how to become a good man. And that for me, it had to come from like a certain amount of pain of I am not the person that I want to be, and I'm not sure why that is. And then you reach a certain level of a pain threshold, or it's like, I see now where my stance in life has been creating a certain perpetuating cycle.
Yep.
I created this. Therefore, the only thing that I can do now is create something different. When you know that you can create whatever you want, you can be conscious about what chapter you're going to go into next and allow the old you to die off. I was not aware of that consciously enough when I went through my deconversion of my faith and went full on into entrepreneurship, but I was doing it unconsciously of, I'm going to create a different life. I'm going to create different meaning. I'm going to create a different focus. It's of no use to say I spent 10 years in corporate America. It's of no use for me to saying I wasn't the partner or the parent I wanted to be for the last 7 years or the entrepreneur I wanted to be for the last 10 years. It's of no value for me to say that. Instead, I have to look at it like I looked at when I got into the physical products game. I have to say, I built a certain skill set. Some of that's going to come with me. A lot of it is not. And I'm going to create a new chapter that looks like this. And Dan Sullivan has a great way of putting this. He says, when you create your future, you're simply deciding what from your past you're bringing with you.
Love it.
So rather than saying, what am I losing? What am I giving up? What from my past am I going to consciously bring forward with me? And when you are focused on what you're creating and what comes with you, you're thinking about what you're gaining. You're thinking about what you are building. You're thinking about what good things are coming. You're not focused on what you are losing. And so I think the conscious takeaway from this is the way that you create a new chapter and let the old self die off is simply be very mindful and intentional about things, philosophies, mindsets, habits, skill sets that you are going to create and to nurture moving forward, and give no attention to what is being left in the past, because it's dead, it's gone, and you have to move on.
Dude, freaking love that. So the second thread that I thought was really interesting there was the world shifts under your feet in business. Oftentimes when you don't want change to happen, I think D2C companies have seen this with Facebook algo changes. Amazon sellers that focus kind of natively on that channel have definitely seen that as the space is professionalized and ad costs have gone up and all these different dynamics happen that suck and you don't want them to happen. You want it to be like it was a year ago. You kind of talked about that transition from kind of SEO to the Amazon space. And then again, the world's always going to shift under your feet with this stuff. How do you roll with the punches and dynamically shift as those changes happen? And what are the mechanisms that you've kind of realized that help you do that?
Keeping a very long-term perspective. The longer term you can think, the easier and faster you will get through those short-term setbacks. Because if you're looking at the crunching of multiples right now, and you're thinking, well, I should have sold a year ago when multiples were 6 and 8x EBITDA, and now they're 3 to 4x EBITDA, you will beat yourself up over that.
Yeah.
You absolutely will beat yourself up over that, unless you're thinking about 3 to 6 years from now. Because if you're thinking about 3 to 6 years from now, there are so many interesting opportunities right now. Because yes, ad costs are up. Yes, the game has professionalized, but there are some interesting companies who just got devalued that are about to panic sell. And there are a lot of qualified, talented people who are about to be laid off. And there are acquisition channels that are about to get cheap again. And there's less competition entering into new spaces right now. And there are stocks and real estate going on sale. I mean, there are some really interesting opportunities if you were thinking about 3 to 6 years out. If you're thinking about the opportunities from a year ago, all you're seeing is a loss. So it's actually the same answer to your previous question of giving no attention to what died and only giving attention to what is being created, which is a muscle that has to be built. But I can tell you, you can see it in entrepreneurs. If they are thinking about the past and they're running this story in their minds about what they should have done, what they could have done, what used to be, they're in a negative space and they cannot make good decisions about moving forward. There's no way for you to grow from that place of beating yourself up. But there is a whole lot of growth that's going to happen over the next 10 years. Might look different, might change according to the marketplace, but there's a whole lot of growth and opportunities that are about to happen. And if you're ready and looking for them, this next chapter is your do-over. It's your second chance to do it right. And so give no attention to what was lost. Give only attention to moving forward. And the faster you can make that flip, faster you grow.
Love it. So let's talk about round one of building sheer strength. And again, I think that you were super early in terms of this concept of, hey, I'm not just selling products or listings or, slapping a logo on stuff, like building things more meaningful around the customer.
Yep. And
thinking about traffic and conversion and all those ways in a much more sophisticated way back when. And I think you've continued to beat that drum over the past 9 years. Right. And I think it's now starting to hit a little bit like, hey, this is what we need to do moving forward. So
people are getting it.
It took the world 9 years to catch up to you, but congrats for kind of digging into that early. How did you build your strength? I mean, the first to certainly publicly kind of talk about the strategies around building a real brand. The first that I know to actually sell an Amazon-centric, Amazon native brand. Walk me through that story a little bit on building kind of V1 of sheer strength.
My partner, Matthew, and I started this company really for ourselves. We were hard gainers. We did not put on muscle easily. We couldn't add weight easily. And so we built the brand that we wanted and we called it Sheer Strength, and we built the products that we wanted. And my favorite memories were being in hotel rooms, visiting manufacturers, trying mysterious white powders that have pre-workouts and proteins. And I remember one time we opened up the packet and it spilled everywhere. And then the cleaning crew came in and there's just all this white powder all over the floor. And we're like, it's not what it looks like. and And I mean, those are my favorite memories, my favorite moments of growing that business. And we crossed the $1 million run rates, that 100,000-ish per month, about a year from ideation, about 8 months from launch. I gave my entire thesis 6 months after building it to a 7-figure run rate in the video that you referenced at the top of this chat. We doubled down on it, made our mistakes, went through the punches and making our errors for 4 years. And then we started thinking about exiting. It was interesting that the business always reflected our mindset. At the very beginning, Matt was working a full-time job, and we finally started paying ourselves $60,000 a year once we were pacing over $1 million run rate. And then as we continued to grow, Matt finally left his corporate job and we went full-time. That allowed us to get from 1 million to 4 million. And then there were periods in which we went into defense mode. We got scared, and so we started defending, and then we stopped growing. And then realized that didn't work, and so we got into aggressive mode again and started growing. And I think we had our first $1 million month the month before we sold, which is interesting because we never thought bigger than $1 million a month. That was always like the pot at the end of the rainbow. We talked to several potential acquirers. I didn't want to sell to the acquirer, but Matt and I were ride or dies. And so we made the decision together to sell. I mean, if you follow my content, you know the story of they ran it completely into the ground. I don't know how, like I couldn't have tried to screw up that company any more than that company was screwed up. But every time we got away from our thesis, the business shrunk. Every time we stuck to the core thesis of building a brand and serving our customer and helping them on their journey, the more that we grew. Every time we got distracted, it shrunk. We took it to the point where we no longer had the skill set and the know-how to take it from $10 million to $50 million. And our idea was, we'll exit and we'll get to watch how a private equity group professionalizes a business, and we'll get to learn how that works. The opposite happened. Well, you learn that entrepreneurs are actually good at this stuff. And that was a whole new set of learning experiences.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I want to talk at the end about kind of V2 of that, because you have reacquired that, spoiler alert, and have some intentions of taking that to 9 figures. So I want to talk about how you're thinking about doing that. But before we do that, I'm going to play armchair therapist here. We'll see.
My favorite.
So it's so interesting, this journey, because I've gone through it, and it's hundreds of entrepreneurs I've talked to behind the scenes that have had a similar path that aren't public. Again, I think a real treat in the fact that you're transparent with your journey publicly and have kind of shown your psyche through the process, the ups and downs, and some of those self-doubts and challenges that come with it psychologically through this path. But for me, it's like you do this thing, you ideate on this thing, and you're like, hey, it doesn't exist yet, and then it exists, and you have a product with a brand that you've created on the package. Then you ship stuff into Amazon or however you're going to sell it, and then holy shit, somebody buys some stuff, and you look down at your app and you're like, somebody bought $200 today. I feel like I'm like on top of the world.
I'm rich.
And then you have your first $10,000 month. Holy shit. And then you have your first $30,000 month. Holy shit. The big holy shit for me, which is kind of what you've kind of talked about before with reverse engineering, is hitting $83,000 a month. Because if you carry that over 12 months, you've got $1 million top line business. And I was like, holy shit, 83,000. And then it kind of scales up. And then, you know, if you were to go back to $10,000 a month, you'd want to commit suicide because you're like, what the hell is that? Even though 6 months earlier, you were stoked on it. So that's kind of snowballs, and I had that experience. And then I ultimately sold my brand about 2 years in, you know, a 7-figure amount. I flipped the app on Chase and looked down at a number, and I was sitting at the Salt Lake City airport about ready to, it was my first flight post-COVID. So it was a little bit weird to begin with. And I see that 7-figure amount in my Chase account, and it felt really surreal for about 5 minutes and then nothing. I bought a kick-ass dream car that I wanted, and it felt really cool looking at that car for about the first couple days. Yeah. And then I felt nothing. And so the most unexpected and interesting experience for me, and I think this correlates with a lot of people that have found quote unquote success, at least in the business realm, is that you rehearse, you fantasize, you forecast things happening. And when they actually happen, it feels like you've discovered this like algorithm in the universe that you're like, holy crap, I've cracked this code, and stuff actually manifests when I put my head down and dig into it and do it. But the scary, sad, and frankly depressing truth is that when you get there, you realize it's not what you thought it was going to feel like. At least that's what it's been like for me. And I've sensed that in some of your content too. Like we all try to put our smiles on, and you know, you flick go on YouTube and you're whatever. But I've seen some of that with you, like I have in myself, which is like something is missing in that journey. And I think a lot of us find it. Walk me through that for you. And again, I don't want to like try to again pretend I'm a therapist, but I want you to walk through that experience, because I think it's a lot of stuff that people don't talk about because it's tough to talk about. It's tough to recognize and it's tough to kind of peel that onion back. But let me know what that experience was like for you.
I think most of us, myself included, get into entrepreneurship because there is some hole we're trying to fill.
Agreed.
That is being important. It's scarcity of money. It is belonging. It is edification in the form of being better than other people, proving somebody wrong. When it started from that place, you can have all of this success, but you realize that it doesn't fill the hole. That is also true with dating. It's true with fitness. You can ask most bodybuilders. They got into the game in order to prove somebody wrong or to prove that they were a man, and they are now the envy of all their friends, but they still feel the same way. The irony of that is that pain can drive us to do great things, but we don't feel like they are great because the psychological wound or the psychological hole is still there.
Yeah.
Now, where I have gotten stuck is that for a long time, I blamed my business for being the thing that was not fulfilling me. Just like if you're in a relationship and there's resentment between you and the person, you will psychologically blame them for you not feeling how you thought you were going to feel in a relationship. That's a ticking time bomb. And so I have had to learn to divorce the results of my business and my own personal work. And I also know that if I'm trying to get those needs met through business, then I will sabotage the business. If I address them internally, the business will flourish and grow. Because the minute you're trying to siphon off energy in some way from the business, that's when you flatline and start to shrink. Just like if you're siphoning off resources, if you're taking money from the business too quickly, if you're siphoning energy in the form of getting edification from the marketplace or looking good publicly or being better than other people, now you're playing a comparison game and you can't fuel energy into the business anymore. You have to find those needs met outside of the business. And so I say, entrepreneurship is the greatest personal development game in the world. It's better than therapy. It's better than Scientology. It's better than religion. Because it just exposes all your gunk, and you cannot succeed in the marketplace until you address those so that you have a different level of capacity to grow. But I have experienced those times where you get to the mountaintop and you wonder why it's not different. But what I have discovered is that the different we were looking for was an internal game the entire time. I remember when I sold my company, got the big check, and I took 2 weeks off and then went right back into hustle mode. And that was really revealing to me 2 years later when I burnt out. And it was, I never took a break. I never celebrated. I only used that as fodder for me to grow my personal brand. So there must be something that I was seeking that I didn't feel like the millions of dollars fulfilled. And then I invested into things that didn't go so well, and I lost a lot of money. And now all of a sudden my ego's threatened and my identity is threatened. Okay, there's something, again, that I did to create this. Why would I have created this? What lesson must I be trying to teach myself if I created this scenario? And what do I want to create moving forward? And how do I need to change and evolve and develop as a man in order to create that something different? And then you do the work of becoming that person.
Ryan, that was crazy powerful. So if that resonated with you, wherever you save links, everybody has a different repository for stuff, but save that and rewatch that 7-minute or 5-minute clip or whatever it is, because there's so much that happens between the ears, and there's so much personal development that coincides with building businesses.
So much.
And you need to recognize that the outcomes and those rehearsals of the top of the mountaintop never bring you the emotional or spiritual satisfaction that you think. And you hit on some really profound stuff there, man. So thanks for opening up on that. That resonates.
I just want to clarify something there, Adam, though. I think that those mountaintop experiences can.
I agree.
Bring the experience.
Yes.
The challenge is that the mental rehearsal that we play is about the result.
Yes.
Not about the emotional experience.
Yes. Yep.
And so we believe that the mountaintop experience, when we get the money or the validation or the 1 million followers, will bring the emotional experience. That is not true.
Yeah.
But you can rehearse the emotional experience and have the satisfaction the entire time. And then when you get to the mountaintop, you have the emotional experience because you have practiced the emotional experience. You felt it a year ago, you'll feel it a year from now. And so it becomes another experience that you collect that continues to validate the emotional experience that you are practicing. But to wait until you have the mountaintop experience will not get you the emotional experience. It might for 5 minutes, but after that you are left with yourself that has a weak atrophied muscle who has not practiced that emotional experience.
Yeah. So true, dude. So true. All right. Well, let's wrap this up with kind of Sheer Strength 2.0, or at least your concept of building physical products brands moving forward. A lot of people now kind of talk about, especially in the context of Amazon kind of native channel brands, like moving forward, you've got to build a brand. And if you don't build a brand, you're dead. And if you're selling products and like people are kind of beating that drum, which I agree with. But I think the definition of what a brand is, people have a misconception of what that means. People think Nike, they think, commercials, they think retail shelf space, they think how many people know what the brand is or the product is, etc. And that's part of it for me. But I think a lot of people miss the mark on what truly creating a brand means and how powerful that can be over the next 5+ years, kind of as we see some of those dynamics shift. What is building a brand for you strategically? And then how are you leveraging that? You've since now reacquired Sheer Strength in its disheveled form and are kind of like a phoenix rising from the ashes, going to give it another crack. Walk me through what that playbook looks like for you and how you define that process.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I mean, this company is in shambles. It's a shit company right now. It should be called Shit Strength. I mean, it's that bad. It is it's a terrible, horrible, no good, very bad business. And I want to fix it. And this is my personal development journey of letting the boy die off and giving the space for the man to come in and try this do-over. Try and build this in the right way with my current skill set and my current mindset. And I'm scared shitless. I am terrified of failing. I am terrified of not having it. Old playbook not working. And I'm choosing that as part of my own development. The brand itself, like I say that it's a shit company because it's completely lost its brand and needs to be totally rebuilt. And a brand to me is earned trust with a specific group of people that believe you can help them with the transformation. Earned trust means it gets earned over time with a specific group of people, meaning you have a core person that you serve and that you've created products that have helped somebody with their own transformation. It looks a lot like making your customer the hero in the story. So the first step for us is who's going to be our customer? 10 years ago, it was the hard gainer boy Ryan who wanted to put on muscle so he could impress girls. Now I'm a father of 2. I'm a hardworking entrepreneur. I care about aging well, being a fit grandpa and playing with my grandkids. And that's a completely different person, and we're going to focus on that. And so the tagline that we're playing with is from dad bod to father figure. And we're engineering that transformation. The dad bod is not cool. The dad bod is not healthy. We're going to build father figures. How do we make people have that transformation? Well, first we need to get those people, and we don't just get that by selling products on Amazon. So step 1 for us was, what is the funnel that we build that gets our ideal people, even if it's just a lead? And so we're creating a book or a PDF called From Dad Bod to Father Figure, and it's about biohacks and aging well and new technologies that are coming out. And we don't even have the products to sell in that PDF yet, but we're going to talk about our competitors' products. We're going to talk about things that you can get elsewhere, and we're going to build goodwill with those people as the starting point of earning trust. And now we're going through and reformulating these products, developing new ones that are in alignment with the service to our core customer that look like they'll help them on their transformation. And then we'll continue to roll out additional products. And as we build a customer base, we'll have the foundation for launching the next product and building funnels and getting people on auto ship. And it will look a lot like work. And it'll a lot like getting dirt under our fingernails and earning the trust with our core customer. That's what it means to me to build a brand, and how we're coming into the game with that as the core focus. Acquiring our ideal customers, serving them on a transformation, and earning that trust over the long term. Over 5 years, we'll either have a profitable company that we'll keep forever, or we'll have another asset that we can sell. We'll see. I haven't thought that far ahead. Right now, we're in that transition period of going from a shitty company to a decent company, which means running my playbook of serving a core person, launching products to them, and earning their trust over time.
Cool. Well, as you always do, dude, thanks for opening up emotionally and strategically.
My favorite thing.
This was a super treat for me. You're one of those guys we could just sit and have beers for like 4 hours and just go down the rabbit hole. People probably won't watch much past like hour 2, so maybe we'll kind of cap it here. But for those that this struck a note with at some point during the conversation, where do people find Ryan online, and where would they go next?
I produce the most amount of content on YouTube. Just search my name, Ryan Daniel Moran, on YouTube. And my community for building $1 million businesses is called the 1%. And that's at capitalism.com/1.
Sweet. And we'll drop those links down below in the description and comments and all that fun stuff. Ryan, something you've always done, and actually I'd have to look it up. This is probably 4 years ago or whatever, and I kind of messaged you on kind of my journey to building my brand. And something you always say, which I love, and I'm going to say it to you, I'm rooting for you, dude.
Thanks, man.
We've got your back, and I'm excited to see where you take it from here. Thanks for inspiring me. Thanks for inspiring others. Thanks for having the balls to open up the kimono and share your journey publicly and helping other people. That's really what your life's work's going to be, right? I mean, it's cool building stuff and building brands, but it's those kind of human impacts that you have. And I think that you've impacted more people than you know. So I really appreciate everything you've done for me and others in the community. So yeah, man, rooting for you. Let's see where this thing goes.
I received that. Thanks so much, Adam. Okay. I appreciate you having me on.
Cheers, man.